Hello everybody, welcome. This is the Not My Doctor Who commentary to accompany the information that we're releasing as a PDF at 1800 on Friday the 15th. Now, originally we actually did record this as a podcast between myself representing Not My Doctor Who and Noel from the TARDIS Zone. However, we had a technical balls up on that one, and we haven't got time to re-record that before we release the information. So instead, I'm going to run through this for you as a solo commentary. Now, by the time you're listening to this, included in this video description will be the link to the PDF of information that we have prepared. And what we are exposing today is a group that exists in 3 places at least online, calling itself the Doctor Who Feminist Front. Now, when you look through both the links to their websites and the information that we're showcasing, you will see that this is a group that claims to be 5 writers who are intimately involved in the production of the show. Okay, now, effectively, these people are aggressive fourth-wave feminists, and their tactics are, well, you know, a little bit extreme. What we've also found out, this is very important, is, as we mentioned in our podcast 2 nights ago, there are 2 significant names who are highly active and directly connected to the show's production. This group has issues with both of those names. Now, when you go and look at the links to these groups, you'll undoubtedly see those names yourselves. But what we have felt is, because there definitely seems to be at least some level of coercive blackmail at work here, we don't want to put ourselves in the middle of that, and we don't want to be involved in repeating the kind of allegations that this feminist front has been using to push their agenda. So rather than us repeating their allegations, their allegations, we are simply saying these allegations are over there, and both of these people, we are sure, already knows about the Doctor Who Feminist Front. So quite what the situation there is kind of interesting, but it looks like they have reached some kind of equilibrium with them. So we would really like to know what these 2 people have got to say about all of this information. And our door is open for them to come and give us their explanation or release a statement or whatever. But for now, we felt that it's not on us to go naming these names. Now, looking through the PDF, for the first couple of pages I sort of set up a general introduction to what we found, and if we come down to page 3, you'll see the first of the JPEGs that we have selected for you to look at. Now, this one is from the blog, which is where the most in-depth posts, obviously enough, are to be found. And it's titled Vincit Omnia Veritas, which is Truth Conquers All. So in this blog post, this writer is directly talking about building up a case with individuals to attack the power in the industry within the Doctor Who, within the BBC and beyond. So they talk about meeting the BBC. They talk about a multifaceted approach to taking down the patriarchy. They're talking about some people who are supporting them in the industry. They're talking about them, describe themselves as 5 women who were writing the show in an era of change. And they also talk about, we want to focus on our show, our product, we bring a new era of feminism to Doctor Who for a new girl audience. So, I mean, this is very much like a declaration of intent and really a confession of methods, just in this one post. They're talking about plotting to get rid of people, orchestrating a mass accusation, meeting with the BBC, and their mission to replace the audience with new girl viewers ready to be turned into feminists. Now the second long post goes deeper into what they've been doing in terms of allegations. It's also important because this one is signed with the name of Amy Alexander. Now, Amy Alexander is not a real name. It in fact is a gestalt used by all five of these writers use that name, or at least that appears to be the case. So Amy Alexander is not a real person. So we don't expect to hear the BBC refuting this simply by saying we've never heard of Amy Alexander. That will not do. Because looking at the clues that we've got, looking at these posts overall, again, we're not naming names today, but we reckon we have a very good chance of correctly identifying at least two of these people behind this Doctor Who Feminist Front. Okay? So, I mean, this post, again, is just really illustrates the whole mentality and attitude of these people and how close they claim to be to the show, how close they claim to be involved in the writing of the show and the power politics behind the show. And what really gets me here is this group have been looking for people to make accusations against the show. But they're not looking to take those allegations anywhere near police. In fact, they're looking to weaponise these allegations for their social justice warrior agenda. So who's exploiting victims here? And if any of this is true, if there's any truth to any of these allegations that they've been inciting people to cook up, why are the police not involved? Why is this actually more like some sort of blackmail pressure campaign to lever people who they consider in the way of their agenda out at the BBC? It's a very interesting question. It's a very interesting question. And in that second post that you'll see on page 3, the second post at the bottom of page 3, they directly say that the reason this young fan, who apparently they claim has some sort of allegation to make against somebody attached to the show, the reason they hadn't come forward is because it would have affected Chris Chibnall's budget funding. What sort of reasoning is that? Why would a teenage alleged victim of alleged abuse want to take that as a motive for not going to police? Finally, this isn't necessarily common knowledge, but in the United Kingdom, under child safeguarding legislation, every adult who has any reason to think that a child may be being harmed in any way has a duty to report. It doesn't have to just be your job. You don't just have to be a social worker. Any adult. Therefore, it seems to us that there may be grounds for a police investigation for why these 5 women, calling themselves the Doctor Who Feminist Front, appear to have obstructed justice. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, moving down on page 4, we're going to get a little bit closer look as to Amy Alexander, because again, as I've mentioned, we've discovered Amy Alexander is a pseudonym shared by 5 women. Here we see a post from, we don't know who, because the feminists did this blackout on that JPEG before we actually before we saw it. So we don't know who this is, but this is somebody who has been coming back at the Feminist Front for the sort of whispering campaign of allegations they've been making, and this reply makes it very clear that Amy Alexander is a pen name, and that it's being done that way to protect themselves from retaliation from the BBC. And in this particular instance, I mean, that's where that comes from. So this is about arguing with fan events and trying to get them, whispering campaigns in people's ears to try and get them to target the people they want targeting, who they claim that there's these allegations that they themselves are involved in making. And on page 5 we get another one. This one's a reply from Wales Comic Con. It kind of reads like a bog standard email reply, but their response is angry, their response is threatening, and we've done a little blank out there because that hashtag fire, that is one of the names that we're not going to be talking about today. So more threats being made against organisations that if they don't do what they want, if they don't give these feminists their own way, they're threatening trouble. Now, on to page 6, and this is very important. The timing of this is really important. This date matters. 20th of November 2017. This group started actively looking for feminist Doctor Who and Star Wars fans. So we've documented this advert, and they're looking to interview feminist female fans of Doctor Who and Star Wars. Well, that all seems harmless enough, doesn't it? But then 2 days later, they made another post which is still pinned to the top of their Twitter. So this post has been there since the 22nd of November 2017, which means it's been there best part of 15 months. And this post is very straightforward. If any co-workers have a Me Too story like ours working at Doctor Who, the BBC, Big Finish or fans of Comic Con, contact us privately on Tumblr with your contact information. They are looking for people to make allegations. And that's been going on for 15 months. And has definitely involved at least 2 people have been involved in the production, have been caught up in the orbit of this. So what is going on? Now, I mean, we can see here, it's the Doctor Who production, the BBC itself, Big Finish, Comic Con and other posts also obsess about Doctor Who magazine. So these feminists are organised, they are certainly very aggressive, and they are looking to attack the whole edifice of the show itself, while also directly saying they are involved in the writing of the show. So, this is like some ideological war being fought inside the production. It's positively Stalinist. It's really quite extraordinary that this is where we are in 2019, that this is what's happening in our society. But there we are. So yeah, and again, with these looking for victims, have any of them gone to the police? Have any of these allegations actually been taken seriously? Or have they simply been used for these writers' agendas? I feel really sorry for anybody who's trusted them, because there's clearly no intention of helping them to get any kind of justice that doesn't involve advancing the agenda of the Feminist Front. Very, very bizarre. So, now that we looked into some of their longer blog posts, let's have a look at some of their general online commentary. So we've got women are in power now, and we're using Jodie to claim Barbie just as we did with the C word, just as we did with the N word, take back the power. Now this actually appears in more than one place. They like this statement. Let's look at that opening sentence again. Women are in power now, and we're using Jodie. I think the more we look into this group, and the more we're starting to hear from Jodie herself, the more it is looking exactly like Jodie Whittaker has been used and manipulated. Now, and we don't know how much Jodie Whittaker really buys into these extremist fourth-wave feminist ideas, or how much this group are misadvising her and causing her to say things that maybe Jodie thinks are what the young people want to hear, but what these feminists know are actually weaponised statements to attack the fan base. One does wonder. Because this is a small coven of embittered women, and the more we look at everything they say about Jodie, the more it is clear that they have weaponised her and they plan an assault against the whole institution of Doctor Who. Now, to these feminists, a Barbie doll is a symbol of oppression. and manipulating society to make the C and N words unspeakable without being the most dreadful offence is a symbolic victory for their methodology of social engineering. And this isn't about a more equal society. This is about a power grab by people with tyrannical, manipulative, nasty instincts. Now, on the next one on page 8 is a typical attack, a typical post inciting their followers to go out and attack people. It's referencing a Doctor Who video from a fan who doesn't like Series 11. Straightforward, we need to shut this asshole up. You know, so this is the sort of organised targeting which has been going on. So if you thought that there was some organising principle between attacks and comments on a YouTube channel, etc., etc., you were probably right. Next one also says a lot about the hang-ups of these people, really. It's referencing another video, Jodie Whittaker Can't Act. A man who can't show his face or name, which, hang on a minute, where's their faces? Where's their names? Yes, quite. But says stupid and idiotic. Well, Jodie is a mum and has a job. She's not your sex object. Glad we got that clear. Glad she's not toxically masculine or a weak actress. Now, as we're going to find out, this not your sex object is because she's our sex object. Is actually what they really mean, and I suppose she's in the influence of this lot. She's become toxically feminine. But it's what if fans don't want Doctor Who to be a sex object? Isn't that right? I mean, they want Doctor Who to be a Time Lord. So this is what we see a lot from these kind of feminist groups, feminist thinking, is this projection of tropes, projecting their hang-ups onto other people and then slamming people for that projection. You know, any man who criticises the show is going to get an angry reaction from these people. This next one, another video about about a female doctor, and this is actually chilling. If you consider that these people are directly claiming, and there seems to be at least enough there to make you wonder what the hell, whether this is what's going on. They're claiming to be writing the show. Now they're saying we are not going back to a male doctor to suit some man baby's fragile stepped-on male ego. Bugger off. And that's not a comment. That's a new post in its own right. That's a statement. But let's think about what it means. Is that what Doctor Who now is? Is Doctor Who now a woman? And he's never, ever, ever going back to being a man? Because that's what they want. That's very clearly what they want. And is that what the fan base was told when they were told that Jodie Whittaker was going to have the part? I suspect not. You know, so you know they're really not going to give an inch in their ideological extremism. Now, the next couple of images we've picked out for you relate to comments about the resolution special. So these have come from a Facebook group, and there's a picture of the Dalek on the woman's back, described as our metaphor for all the abusive, controlling men in our lives, because of course there could never be abusive, controlling women, could there? Well, maybe if anyone dated this lot, they might find out differently. But you know, also a reference to the Brexit joke. So you know, both of these JPEGs are directly claiming their input in the series special. They suggest that the real intent behind the Recon Dalek was as another anti-man metaphor, and was UNIT killed off because it was an oppressive symbol of the patriarchy? Well, it certainly appears possible. You know, change Doctor Who forever. What are they thinking about? Next one on page 12. It's brilliant to see Crybaby Men finally falling into line. Quite frankly, it was getting old. And then another one which actually had become really notorious, referencing the stylist image. Jodie roasts male crybaby haters of feminism, used with permission from stylist.com. Now, I want to pay a little bit of attention here to two things. Firstly, the date. This is a couple of weeks before the show started. Now, then we've got Jodie with this text. For each sexist bigot threatening not to watch, there'll be a young girl with a new hero they didn't have before. Good riddance. Now, who put those words in Jodie's mouth? Because I have a very strong feeling that these people have had input in that. Because they further go on to say that it's used with permission from stylist.com. Now, does that mean they are in communication with stylist.com? Interesting question to follow up on. But, you know, in general, there are further examples of misandry and hatred towards men, and also hatred towards the general fandom. We show a Facebook version of the claim Barbie C-word N-word post, because it's, you know, it just shows how much they really mean it. But, you know, this is their war against men. This is what this is all about. But it's when it comes to Jodie herself that these fourth wave feminists become the most creepy. But you know, there is something about them. It is very disturbing. It reminds me of a controlling, abusive man who sees a woman as his objectified property. Now, that would be heresy in the ears of these feminists, I'm sure, but that is exactly how they themselves behave. Interesting, isn't it? You know, because when you really get down to it, there's very little difference between an aggressive fourth wave feminist and a very sexist man. They're both extremes. And there's a picture of Jodie Whittaker, which has I would say hard to define these things, but I would say that it definitely has a bit of a come on look to it. You know, it's a look to camera, but there's a vulnerability there that a predatory personality might not to exploit, frankly. So there's no wonder these feminists have got a bit hot about it. Now, also, in the back of this picture, it's some sort of dressing room, presumably BBC, and behind Jodie, we could see Pam St Clements, who played Pat Butcher in EastEnders. Now, Pam St Clements, famously the Pat Butcher character, just got treated like shit by men again and again and again, and she's a bit of a feminist icon. And the way that that she's sat in her opposite Jodie, looking away from her into a mirror, is like she's looking into the mirror, looking at Jodie while the camera's looking at Jodie. There's a lot of symbology in this picture. It means a lot to the people who linked it, and it's actually got a caption on it which has been translated from Portuguese. "You are very cruel, Jodie, to look at me like this and not be close to you." Does that seem a bit creepy to you? If people want to have fantasies about TV characters, well, that's perfectly alright. That's very perfect. People can have fantasies about whatever they want. And I'd never waste my time trying to stop people fantasising. But this possessiveness about Jodie, among the people claiming to be responsible for putting her in the job, it doesn't seem right to me. There's something wrong with that behaviour. There's something wrong with that relationship. And, you know, it does strongly suggest, you know, that Jodie has been at least allowed to get into something that she didn't really understand. And her recent podcast with David Tennant would really seem to back that up. You know, if what Jodie said to David Tennant in the podcast is 100% legit, and she was really ill prepared to take on the role, but she really didn't even understand what she got into until after the first episode aired, then, you know, I mean, I have to wonder, how has Jodie Whittaker been allowed to become Doctor Who and to be in such a position. Sounds like somebody found a useful person who they could use for their agenda. It really, really does. And I don't know if Jodie can sort of break away from these people. If they do have a grip, if they do have a control on her, it could all get rather interesting. So yes. Now on to page 15, and on this one we have, to start off, we have a picture of Peter Capaldi's sonic screwdriver, which is weaponised as a meme, and the meme says, "When Jodie Whittaker took the sonic screwdriver, ending 50 years of a phallic patriarchal symbol, naming it the symbol of the feminised, castrated Doctor, I felt honoured as a feminist, as a woman, as much as she did." So, I mean, again, it's just straightforward ideological war against anybody who isn't an extremist feminist. Now, further down, we also have a picture which we've selected because it really shows where these people who, again, they say they are intimately connected to the writing of the show, and they are showing the 13th Doctor in a romantic dance with a female, and which you can't see her face, but potentially has been drawn a little to look like it might be Rose Tyler. So, it's one of those. The scene they're working towards making a reality, a lesbian companion relationship for the Doctor. That is what they are looking for. They didn't quite want to risk it on the first series, so I brace yourselves, everybody, because especially if they think that they're going to get kicked out on their ass, they're almost certain to do it in the second series, if what they're saying about their power within the show is really real. The next picture on page 16 that we picked, we thought this represented how they see the Doctor, really, which is as an intersectional fuck up of epic dimensions is really the best we could put it. I mean, this interpretation of the calendar, of the character rather, it's just an absolute feminist man-hating trope, and that's because that's what they see. They want the Doctor to be them, and they want the Doctor to be their avatar, about their hang-ups, their issues, their war against society. That's what these people want. So if this continues, if this version of Doctor Who continues, then the Doctor is going to end up deconstructed into a total joke, a trope for every single LGBTQ intersectionality, well, a trope, because the trope is a trope, or what we're so used to seeing from them, just regurgitating this culture, and they want to indoctrinate young girls, and they want to indoctrinate young girls to resent and hate men. And that, even things like a Dalek on the back is a metaphor for a man. It's terrible. So, I mean, I hope that this has helped you understand some of the perspectives of what we've seen in these pictures. We want you to think about this. We want you to investigate this. We want you to come to your own terms with what's going on here and what's going on with these people's claims. And what has it got to do with people in the production? And we really feel that the production office has got to come forward and say something about this. This material's out there. It's been waiting to be found. We've found it, and it needs explanation. We're also asking you to get behind us, show your support by liking and of course sharing the Not My Doctor Who HQ Facebook page. We put a link in it near the bottom of the PDF, so that wherever this gets shared, people can find their way back to us. The more people we have liking the page, when we can get that page into hundreds and thousands of likes, then we start to get some leverage behind us, but we can then use to start demanding answers from the BBC. So it's not a nothing. What can we do? The answer is you can do what you can do, and that means at the very least, if you agree that there's a serious problem here, give the Not My Doctor Who Facebook page a like. Thank you very much. And we finish up with two more images that we want you to think about. The first is that these 5 writers have a book. It's not out yet, but they have written a book. It's called Doctor Who, The Inside Story. Now, we've quoted a message they sent, a tweet they sent to Rolling Stone. Thank you for a true feminist interview of Jodie Whittaker like we asked for. We would very much like you to interview the 5 of us when this, quoting the book, comes out. And, so they're basically, they are pitching themselves as the power behind the throne. They've got an exclusive story to tell. They want Rolling Stone to tell it. So, behind the scenes, they're painting themselves so that at the very least, whatever else happens, they want to be able to present what they've done as some sort of legendary blow against the patriarchy for the 4th wave feminism. And for final image in the PDF is Jodie Whittaker with a bit of a scrunch-faced smile. It's captioned as, "That moment when your plan falls into place and your 5 feminist friends help you become the greatest actor in Doctor Who history, and you deserve it. Thank you, Jodie Whittaker, for being a true feminist. We love you as writers. It's all been a conspiracy." This has got nothing to do with a female doctor being right for the show. This has got everything to do with weaponising Doctor Who to attack society. Now, if you can live with that, then that's fine. There's nothing you need to do. Walk on by. But if you can't, and if you want to see something done about it, Not My Doctor Who is standing for you. Thank you very much. I hope this commentary has helped to understand the information we've released, and